What's up, guys? Me and little man are in the truck. We have the gooseneck hooked up. We're headed down about an hour and a half away from the house. Gonna go get a donor. So whenever we get there, I'll show you. We'll get it loaded up. We're in a rush and a time crunch. We have a Christmas party to get to at 4 o'clock. It is 12 right now. We have an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. So there's no room for anything, really. Get there, get loaded, get back. That's it. So we'll show you guys what we're getting when we get there, but I'm super stoked about this. It is going to be awesome. Let's go. All right, guys, so we are back at the shop. It has actually now been like 2 days since that last clip. We went to our Christmas party, got all the Christmas stuff taken care of. I still haven't unloaded the truck. We're fixing to do that now, but before we do, I'm gonna go over it with you guys. Check it out. So we have the new tow pig that is yet to be seen on the channel. The 2011 6.7 Powerstroke, black leather lariat, 4-inch lift, 24x14, hostile forged wheels, 33 1250s. She's a freaking unit. Like it. This is probably my favorite truck yet. I love this one. But the truck we went and got the other day is this one. It is a 2007 f250 6.0 Powerstroke truck. Was a lariat, but there's no seats in it anymore, so it's just tan plastic trim and everything. It is a 1-ton dually. It is not a cabin chassis. It is a regular chassis dually. Now, here's the plans for it. So I've also done some other stuff that you guys haven't seen yet, which is back here behind me. My old Patina 79 Super Cab long bed f250. The engine that was in that frame through a rod bearing, a connecting rod bearing. So now we're back to square one with it. So here's the plan. So we'll get through my little thinking process here. This here is the red f250 2007 6.0 Powerstroke donor that I told you guys we was going to put my 78 crew cab short bed on. The truck that I got a while back. I told you guys we was going to put it on this truck. Well, here's the thing. The wheelbase difference between this truck and the 78 crew cab is 8 inches. So I could pull this cab off and I could chop the frame and shorten the frame 8 inches and put the 78 crew cab on it. But then that still leaves Tina without a motor. The wheelbase difference between Tina and this truck is 3 inches. Therefore, I could put Tina on this floor and firewall of this Super Duty, bolt the flatbed to the frame back here, and then cut the headache rack off the flatbed and scoot the headache rack forward to the cab 3 inches to make up my wheelbase difference. But then at that point, we're still a single wheel and we need to make it a dually to work with the flatbed right and look right with the flatbed, you know? It's got to be a dually if it's a flatbed. I don't like single wheel flatbed trucks. Anyways, so that is where this truck back here comes into play. We will take the front dually spacers, all 6 wheels and tires, the dually rear axle with the 1-ton leaf springs, swap it all to this truck. Well, this go-kart, if you would. It's not really a truck anymore. It doesn't have a bed, no doors, no nothing. But it runs and drives around the parking lot like this right now. We'll swap all the dually stuff over to this one and put this single wheel stuff on that one. And that frame, axles, transmission, and engine will be used for the 78 crew cab right here. That is the plan. Sort of like a double whammy. I only have to chop and section and shorten one frame instead of doing both frames. Because I could put Tina on this frame, but I would have to chop and shorten this frame to do that. And I could put the crew cab on that one, but I'd have to chop and shorten that frame too. So this way I'm only chopping one frame. So I'm gonna get the old tow pig pulled up. We'll get this backed around probably over there next to that one. And We'll get her unloaded off the trailer. Look at this freaking thing, though. This has to be my most favorite truck I've ever had yet. I love this truck. It is so comfortable. It's a freaking powerhouse. If y'all ain't ever had a 6.7 Powerstroke, black leather lariat with the full center console, you need to get one. I'd show you the rest of the inside in here, but it's a mess. So we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna get this thing backed around. We'll get you all set up, get this thing pushed off the trailer. Let's go. A little sketchy, but we got it. Well, we're starting to run out of daylight, but we obviously have the truck off the trailer. 6.7's backed in here. We're about to unhook the trailer, but I'll walk you guys around this thing real quick. Show you. We'll take a gander at her. All right. 6.0 Powerstroke. It does have blown head gaskets. I cranked that thing over, and it just has zero compression on crank. So I know it's got blown head gaskets, but I also know how to fix it. So we'll probably end up saving this engine or using it as a parts engine for the 78 crew cab. But as I said before, the front dually spacers, wheels and tires, rear dually axle, leaf springs, suspension is all getting swapped to that extended cab truck. And then we will take, I'll show you the plan. We'll walk over here. We're gonna cut the rockers off of this floorboard. We're gonna cut it at the back of the cab and probably right underneath that seat. We're gonna cut the door jambs off, the door posts off at the windshield. Take this front fender off. Trim as much of the side panel as possible while still keeping it intact. And then cut the floor and firewall out of the 78 Super Cab patina, the old blue dually over there. We'll cut the floor and firewall out of it and set it over this Super Duty skin so we can have the Super Duty dash on the inside and all of the features and functions of the newer model, modern style dash. And then dualies. Put the dually stuff on here. I have to get some new tires for them. I'm probably gonna end up running 10 lugs and 24s and 35s. So she's gonna be a freaking workhorse of a unit. But we're gonna try to start knocking these videos out for you guys this year. So I've been saying it for a while. I really want to get back at it. I also have some new forms of videoing coming in, I guess you could say. We got a drone, so we're going to start getting some aerial views of this place and some aerial footage of the trucks, so stay tuned for that. But this is one heck of a unit. Highly recommend a 6.7 Powerstroke to anyone out there. What's up, guys? So it is now the next day. I really want to be able to get the donor truck in here, but first we have to put a steering rack and a power steering unit in this bad machine right here. So I'm going to set the camera up. I'm going to go ahead and video doing that since we're videoing everything nowadays. We'll get this one buttoned up. As soon as this one is done, I'm going to bring the red extended cab long bed donor truck in here for the Patina Super Cab project. And we're gonna see if we can figure out some issues with that thing. It doesn't fully go forward like it's supposed to. When you put it in drive, it just sort of like lugs, sort of like the e-brakes on, but it really, the e-brake's not on. The truck's just stuck in like second or third gear. So I'm gonna try to swap around computers and see if that's an issue, or if the range sensor on the side of the transmission that tells the computer what gear it's in, if that's the issue. And we'll go from there. If we end up having to swap the transmission out, that's what we'll do. But for now, we have a steering rack, a power steering unit, and a full oil change service front to back on this thing. Gotta knock it out before I can work on my own stuff. So let's get into it. All right, guys, got to a stopping point on the side-by-side. Got the original steering rack out and the stub shaft on it, and the stub shaft on the new aftermarket Super ATV rack that we got are two completely different stub shafts. Okay, so the stub shaft is what the steering rack or the steering wheel bar goes into to then turn the steering rack back and forth, side to side. So anyways, I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board on that, get back with the parts guy at the side-by-side dealership and see what we can do about getting the correct rack here for it. So for now, I'm gonna shove it up here to the front of the shop in this area and bring one of my 6.0 trucks in here so I can tinker around and play around with it. Let's go. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see me that well with this freaking light on. There we go, that's a little bit better. But I bought this white truck as sort of like a parts truck for the red donor truck. Like I said, I was having some issues with it shifting, and then we're also having issues with the gauge cluster reading correctly. It's throwing like a couple different weird codes, usually have to do with the bad gauge cluster. So we're gonna get the red donor truck inside the shop here, and then I'll probably start swapping parts between the two to see what we can get figured out with it. So first, we have to take the batteries out of the white truck here because I took them out of the red donor and put them into this one. So then we're gonna swap them back over to the red truck so we can start it up, get it inside. Let's go. All right, got our batteries in here. Now, another thing, this thing won't start off the key, and it doesn't matter if you put it in neutral or park or whatever. It doesn't matter what gear it's in, it will not crank on key. So that's another reason why we have the parts truck and why I'm wanting to swap these parts over between the two. I kind of want to swap over the computer because the transmission controller is built into these computers. So I want to get the computer swapped over, and then we'll move over to the range sensor on the side of the transmission that tells the computer what gear it's in. We'll try that, but for the time being, this is how we got to crank this thing over and start it with the old fender wire. Freaking starts like a dream though. It's like 34 degrees outside. I just put batteries in this thing and fired it up like that. That's awesome. It sounds amazing too. All right, let's get it in the shop. All right guys, got the truck inside. Wanted to go over sort of my like game plan, especially for like the front clip area for getting the 79 adapted to this Super Duty cab and firewall and everything. So let's look at it, check it out. So I've seen a couple guys do the like just the outer skin swap and put a 70s skin over the top of a Super Duty floor and firewall. And apparently the cowl on the 70s Ford lines up pretty close with the 6.0 cowl. Now, here's my idea. I don't want to move any of the engine bay stuff, and I don't want to move any of the core support stuff on the Super Duty. I want it to all stay exactly where it's at. I don't want to mess with having to make all new brackets for the radiator or AC condenser or intercooler or anything like that. So my idea so far, if I can make it happen width-wise right here, my idea is to trim this little housing off, just this little indentation right here. Trim this off right up here, maybe have to flush cut this right through here, but I want to keep all this intact here, and I'm pretty sure the 70s core support comes in line with this area right here. So I'll get the fender set up, get the core support in here, and get an eyeball estimate of where it's going to need to line up at, and then chop each side of the core support off on the 70s dent side, here and over there obviously, and then just weld the core support outer half to the Super Duty core support. That way I can still mount my headlight bucket, my fender, and my grill shroud. But I'm pretty sure as far as distance wise, or the 79 Ford windshield lines up pretty straight with this dash, and then you have about 6 inches there for the cowl. So the cowl lines up about right here, and then you have roughly this much of hood on a 70s Ford. So I'm pretty dang sure we're gonna have plenty enough room up here to just lop the freaking 70s core support half and half over there, and then just weld it to the Super Duty core support and be able to tie everything together like that and not have to move anything here. That is my biggest plan. My biggest thing that I want to do, I want to make happen, is to not have to move anything in the engine bay. Just basically just do a little bit of fab work and then have a running and driving 70s Ford truck on a 6.0 Powerstroke. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that hood hinge off, and then I think I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to figure out how to get the windshield disconnected without busting into 1,000 pieces. And then we'll move over to the back half of cutting the back half of the cab off, and hopefully be able to lift the cab off the top half of the cab off tomorrow. And if we get to that point, we'll pull Tina back in here, strip the front clip off of it, and get the cab off of that frame, get it up here on the lift, cut the floor and firewall out of it, slide this back in, start setting it over here this week. Hopefully have Tina sitting on this floor and firewall by the weekend. That is my goal. It's what I'd like to have happen. So without further ado, let's start chopping. All right, guys, the top half of the cab is cut and chopped off. I'm gonna set it back down where it's supposed to be, and then we're gonna fire the truck up, back it outside, and I'm just gonna pick it up and roll it off. And then it's pretty much time to roll this one outside and bring Tina in here and start tearing Tina down. We get the front clip off of Tina, minus the fenders. I wanna leave the fenders connected to the cab. And we'll cut the floor and firewall, throw it up in the air, and then bring this truck in. Start fine tuning and fitting it down on there. Let's go. All right, guys, we got Tina inside. She's in here, ready to be stripped. And we have our go-kart 6.0 right out here. decided to want to get sunny today too. Here's the old tow pig. Here's our go-kart, awaiting for the 70s skin to be set over the top of it. So, gonna get back in here, set the camera up on the tripod, start stripping this one apart. Let's get to it. All right, guys, we are now fully cut. Firewall, floorboard is fully disconnected from the cab. So I'm gonna roll it back forward, get it centered up in the lift, get the lift arm set up underneath the cab. We'll pick that outer shell of the cab up off the floor and firewall. This is nuts. I've only ever done this with one other vehicle, and it was the 50 Ford onto the supercharged Mustang. We put the 50 Ford over the supercharged Mustang floor and firewall and grafted all that together, and that was pretty neat. So I'm excited to see how a 70s Ford truck goes. Let's get into it. All right, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little freaked out right now, but we're gonna keep going. Cab is separated from the floor and firewall, and we're completely disconnected on everything. So it's time to roll the 79 frame out from underneath the cab and get it out of the way, get the 6.0 powerstroke back in here. So without further ado, pitter patter, let's get at her. All right, guys, so we got the donor truck in here, and we've already ran into our first snag. So I got to pull it back out, lower the cab down, and resituate the cab on the lift feet, because the lift feet are in the way from actually lowering the cab down to the Super Duty. So we'll get the Super Duty back out of here, resituate the lift on the cab, and then pick her back up and try again. All right, got her back in here. I went ahead and trimmed out the cowl and the floor of the 79 a little bit more to get that set where I wanted it. So now we're gonna start making the 6.0 Super Duty fit this. So I've already set it down, eyeballed it, checked it out, and I'm going to have to make a cut here, right through here, and then take this bubbled housing off, and then cut about right here up into this door post, cut this section, and then cut it down on the inside of this pinch weld right down through here, and then take this whole door post, take that whole outside out. I'm gonna cut it down through here as well, and then do that on both sides and see how it does. Let's go. Okay, so like the time period between that last time lapse and now, it's probably a good 15 hours. I've made some tremendous progress on Tina, and I've gotten the cab completely set down on the floor and firewall. We do still have some fine trimming and fine tuning to do on a few things. I think I'm gonna pull the dash out and then see if I can get the cab to sit down like another ½ inch. But like, that's, if I can, that's as much as we'll be able to get it down farther. But this is the current state of Tina. Check it out. Fully set down. I have a ratchet strap across the front right here holding the fenders up straight. But this is turned out killer. Wish that 2-post wasn't in the way, but. So as you can see right here, I do have the wheel alignment and the fender well off a little bit to the back. That is because the defrost vents on the windshield, I wanted to make the defrost vents clear and not have to trim the defrost vents completely out in the center of the windshield. So I set the cab forward a little bit farther and to straighten this line up and get the tires centered in the fender well, we'll just get some extended control arms or some adjustable control arms and get it forward the inch that it needs to go. So I'm not too worried about that. That'll be okay. Here is what the inside of the dash looks like. Pretty dang sweet. I am going to be getting some different seats though. These are vinyl captain chairs with a flip up center console. I want to get some lariat seats, some tan leather, but she is coming right along. And I made a heck of a scrap metal mess trimming and cutting and getting this thing fitted last night. I was on a roll. I just went at it. So I am going to go ahead and lower the lift down the rest of the way and then slap the lift arms back and then get this thing out of the shop to where I can go through and clean all this scrap up and get it to where I can actually walk in here again. So we'll set the camera up and get at it, guys. Let's go. All right, guys, we got the shop cleaned up. I went ahead and did some cab mounts on my 2011 6.7 Powerstroke F250 today. So we did just get Tina back into the shop probably about a couple hours ago. The boys came out, we all hung out and just piddle farted around with old Tina. And let me tell you, check this thing out. So I was able to completely get the front grille shroud on here without trimming a single thing, okay? The only thing that is trimmed on the Super Duty half is up here at the cowl to get the cab to sit down. In the position that I have the cab right now, there is zero stuff that I have trimmed to get this grille shroud up front here and bolted up. I am beyond stoked about that. You have no idea. And the cool part about this too is the 6.0 Powerstrokes. Well, I mean, I guess it would be any model 6.0 or pretty much any model 7.3 too. The Super Duties, 99 to 2007, I guess you could say. The light sockets for all the light bulbs, for the blinkers, and the side marker light, they all are compatible with this 79. Literally, I didn't change a single light socket. I just basically stretched the wiring out for the 6.0. On the Super Duty, it has a side marker light on they have one-piece headlight housings. There's a side marker light over here, and then there's the blinker in the center, or at the bottom, and then the headlight at the top. It's literally practically just a slimmed down version of a 1979 Ford, and it works perfectly. I have the side marker lights and the blinkers hooked up currently. I have a little bit more wiring to do to get the headlights connected, but I'm gonna save that for a later time. Not too worried about that right now. We was just messing around and got the marker lights turned on. And also I mentioned about having an issue with the 6.0 before we ever pulled it in and cut the top off. Whenever you put it in gear, it would lug, and I mean lug, like it was stuck in second or third gear. Wouldn't drive for crap, and it wouldn't start off the key. You'd have to turn the ignition on and then come over here and touch the starter wire that's usually on the side of the fender right here. Touch the starter wire to the positive battery cable to get the engine to crank over and start. Well, that f250 dually truck that we went and picked up on Christmas Eve, I went out to it, pulled the computer out of it, put the computer into this, and that fixed every single issue. It shifts the way it's supposed to. It starts on the key now. Does everything it needs to do. Check it out. I've been messing with a heater trying to get the heat to work. The blend door actuator is not kicking in. Turn our lights on. There we go. Fit in there pretty good. Here's our side markers and blinkers. And they already work too. Too freaking cool. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm really pumped about this. I love this thing. I love the patina on it. My favorite color combo that Ford ever did. And to have it in patina this clean. Like the only thing that's rusted on this body, on this cab and front clip, the only thing that's rusted through, not just surface rust, is the cab corners. That's it. And all of the other rust that was in it was in the floorboard, and we took care of that by swapping it to a Super Duty floor. So kill two birds with one stone. But it is killer. I done took it for a trip around the parking lot. Thanks for watching, guys. Tune in next week. I'll drop another update video. That's it for this video. I'm probably way too long on the video anyways. It's gonna take forever to upload. So stay tuned. I'll have more progress for you guys next Friday. As I said earlier in this video, I'm gonna start uploading more regularly of everything that I'm doing, not just specific projects. So everything is going to be throughout a video. Stay tuned, guys. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.